Okay, let's do this. Hit that music.
I kind of think that I have become an awesome editor.
I know, I do too. You're doing really awesome.
What can I say? I am the bestest.
Well, you're second best. Just wait till you see my editing ability.
Yeah, but see, the reason mine's better than yours is it actually happens. Whereas yours stays in your imagination.
I know, but I have some really good ideas. Hi.
Why do you need two pens? I want a pen.
One is for my book. I didn't know I had to. I don't know. I was going to make up a stupid excuse.
Yeah.
Hi. Alright.
You only need one.
Hit the music.
One of our fans, who goes by the moniker of Wedge Antilles, or as we like to call him in the Rebel Underground, codename Wedge Antilles.
That's right. But he also goes by
Dave.
His real name, Dave.
Yes. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
And Dave and his friend Biggs, who I think is also a listener of the Sci-Fi Christian.
Cool.
So, hey, Biggs.
Hey, Biggs.
And they went to Comic-Con New Orleans and shot a whole bunch of cool footage for us.
I think they actually pronounce it Nolans.
Nolans. But we're
when I went to New Orleans, that's how I said it. New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Nolans.
You know, the other freaky thing is that I was watching his footage, and he's from Mobile,
Alabama.
And I always thought it was mobile. So I've been pronouncing it mobile, and then I was watching, I was like, hey, that's how you pronounce it, because Dave said, like, mobile or mobile.
Hey everyone, Wedge Antilles with the Rebel Underground correspondent in Mobile, Alabama.
It's Mobile.
Mobile. And I was like mind blown, and now I feel like an idiot. So there's all sorts of great things. It's fantastic footage. I'm going to edit it together. I just saw it last night.
So he has footage on the scene of this Comic-Con.
Yeah, on the scene, and then like he took some shots during Comic-Con, and then they also did like a wrap-up thing.
Okay.
So I'm gonna edit their wrap-up thing and intersperse it with some of their shorter clips from at Comic-Con. It's going to look awesome, and we'll have that up later this week. Here's why I'm really not too thrilled about this, in addition that McGee's an idiot. But originally, like a few years ago, there was talk that Joss Whedon was going to do a Wonder Woman movie, and the studio didn't like his idea. So it's like, okay, who's the brain-dead idiot that said no to Joss Whedon and yes to McGee?
Yeah,
I mean, come on! Come on!
I agree, Ben.
That's so freaking stupid.
I agree.
Not okay with me. Not okay. But basically, the question on the table today is, as we start to describe this and we look at the two styles, is which style is more effective at communicating the gospel and biblical truth?
Yeah, I think this is a great question.
Particularly if we're talking about a non-believer walks into the bookstore, picks up Narnia, picks up Lord of the Rings, which one is going to teach him more about God, teach him greater truth, and have a greater likelihood of pushing him towards Scripture and towards the Bible?
Yeah, I like to think of it instead of... I like to think of it in a sense of what directs him to Jesus more.
Exactly. Which one is more effective at communicating biblical truth, and why? And what's so good about this is we have these two brilliant men, fantasy giants, who disagreed on this point.
Yeah.
Tolkien would have said mythology, allegory is crap. It should never be used. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. Lewis would say that allegory is how he worked this stuff in, and by using this kind of loose allegorical approach.
You know, it's interesting, though. On the flip side, Lewis didn't feel as strongly bad about mythology as
he loved Lord of
Tolkien
the Rings.
felt about allegory. So
Tolkien kind of had a stick up his butt about it, but
possibly a little bit.
I'm there with him.
And they actually, after Lewis
Not
died...
that I have a stick up my butt.
After Lewis died, Tolkien actually said that even though a lot of people thought them still pretty close friends, they hadn't really had that closeness for the last 10 years of Lewis's life.
Yeah, exactly. And Narnia was a big part of that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. One of the strengths of mythology is the fact that there isn't a 1-to-1 ratio. So...
Correct.
So...
Wait, you're supposed to be defending. You're making my case for me.
Here we go. And
this is not getting off to a good start for you.
And so, in that sense, when the writer writes something, he leaves it open to the reader to interpret it however he wants.
Disagree.
Therefore, with allegory, there's a clear message. The author starts with something that he wants to get to. There's intention in his writing.
Absolutely.
So it's easier to get to the main point that the author wants you to find. So, for example, when I was young, I saw animated versions of both Lord of the Rings and Narnia. young.
The animated Bashki version of Lord of the Rings is so bad.
I mean, even
never watch it.
The animated Narnia is pretty bad.
Did
too.
you ever see the animated Hobbit?
I did not.
They added in all these stupid songs that aren't in the book, so they've got this song, "The Greatest Adventure."
The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said. The chances, the changes are all yours to make. The mold of your life is in your hands to break.
It's so bad.
But is the movie good?
The animated Hobbit? No, never
Okay,
watch
so
it.
I thought you were going to say, but
No.
even the music's bad, but the story's good.
No, the music's bad and it gets worse from there.
Ooh, okay. So here's what I was going to say. There's an animated version of Narnia. There's an animated version of Lord of the Rings. When I saw these in elementary school, I could immediately, as a very young child, I could see the correlation between Narnia and biblical story. Lord of the Rings, I had no idea that there was any sort of spiritual undertones in that. I mean, as a youngin', I should say. Now I can see some spiritual things, but still, I can't see that Lord of the Rings, if we're using that as an example, directs someone to Jesus. You'd said now that Tolkien uses universal themes.
Yep.
Which could send anybody in any direction spiritually. It's not necessarily going to be effective in communicating the Christian gospel because of these broad themes. And I agree, it's not tied to symbols, and that's why I like it. I like mythology as a storytelling device. But if you're trying to be effective in communicating a certain gospel, universal themes is not going to get it done.
But we are talking about planting seeds, making people think about things that points them in the direction of Scripture, but does not force them to go there. Allegory says you have to go here. It says you have to go here.
You're absolutely right. Planting seeds, but who knows what kind of seeds it's planting? It could be planting a seed.
Okay, but I would argue...
It could be planting seeds.
You're taking my microphone away.
It could be planting seeds to somebody who's into Hinduism now instead, or it could be it could plant seeds to make people interested in becoming a Muslim. But we're saying what's more effective in communicating the Christian gospel message, and in that sense, using universal themes, you can't say that Tolkien is communicating a better Christian gospel.
Yes, I can.
Using broad.
Give me my microphone.
Using broad themes, it doesn't make any sense. Anybody would say, if you're using the word universal themes, you know what you get to? Universalism.
Wrong. And I will tell you why. God has created...
I like sitting close enough to you to take away your microphone.
We are never recording in Studio B again. God has created humanity with these stories written deep in the human heart. This is what it means to be made in His image. This is the reason why humans tell each other stories, is because this is God's story. Myth always, in Christian cultures and non-Christian cultures, is always communicating God's truth. That's what myth does, is it reaches into the human heart and communicates deep truths that God has planted there, because we are made in His image. And how much more effective is it than when myth is being written by someone who understands the gospel? This is why Lord of the Rings has such mass appeal. It's not because of elves. It's not because of dwarves or action scenes or thrilling adventure. It's because it's telling us the story of the Bible. It's telling us God's story.
But you've already said it doesn't direct people.
Yes, it does. It doesn't force them to go there, but it says this is truth. It points there, and it has a universal claim that says this is true.
In the Bible, Paul talked about how I think he was talking to the Corinthians, some of your philosophers have said this. And he was basically saying that even though these weren't Christian, in quotes, Christian philosophers, they did speak truth. And we know that in many religions, there's aspects of truth. It's not complete truth because they're not Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
Right.
So, what you're describing in these broad range of messages and universal themes, the fact that it's not boxed in means it could be for anything. He could be inadvertently directing people to a totally different religion.
No, because
if you're talking about effectiveness,
take Hinduism.
If you're talking about effectiveness for the Christian gospel, you cannot say that broad themes and universal themes are effective.
There is no way that Lord of the Rings is going to point someone towards Hinduism, because Hinduism communicates an entirely different set of truths.
You're saying that in the history of the world, nobody's ever read Lord of the Rings and became a follower of the Hindu religion.
I can't say that for
Exactly,
sure.
you
But
can't
what
say
I am
that.
saying is that even though there is risk involved, there's also risk involved with allegory, that somebody can read the allegory and be completely turned off to Christianity because of that, because they don't like being preached to.
Sure, there's risk involved, but what's more effective? Communicating something specifically with intention, or just being whatever happens. I'm just going to use some universal themes, and hopefully my beliefs will seep through.
I'm going to have to put up video because I'm getting way too animated here for people not to see this. But that's not it at all. That's not it at all. It's not that it's just, anything goes. Tolkien acknowledged that he was specifically putting biblical truth into the book.
So you told me earlier that he was not. So
No. I told you he wasn't doing biblical symbols. Pay attention to the outline. It's right here. It's right here.
So he did intend it to be a Christian message.
Yes, but he did not intend it to be an allegorical message.
So he still used, even trying to make it a Christian message, he used universal themes that could direct somebody to become a Muslim?
No, he didn't.
Well, I think he did.
Prove it. How would you get to Muslim?
I'm just picking. I picked a Muslimism. I just picked a random religion that's not Christianity.
No. You tell me. You make the case right here. How would Lord of the Rings direct anyone towards Muslimism?
I'll tell you this: I don't have to make a case that the Lord of the Rings.
I can make a case for Lord of the Rings directing people to Christianity.
Just wait. What I would say is, it's almost 100% likely that in the history of the book's release, in the whole world, somebody has read the Lord of the Rings and said, hey, this really reminds me of Islam. I'm going to go try that out.
I could give you another example.
Yes, please.
I'm blanking on his name. The Golden Compass series.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Philip Pullman.
Yes.
Which is he wrote it as the anti-Narnia.
Have you read it?
I have not.
It's good.
And it completely rips on Christianity.
His dark materials.
Yeah. The whole point of it is to...
It doesn't rip on Christianity.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
That's the whole point of it. He wrote it as an atheist version of Narnia.
It's that.
That's why he wrote it, was to tear down Christianity.
Did he really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Well, it didn't work on me.
So allegory was ineffective.
Bam.
Oh, take that.
That was a good one.
Oh my gosh.
You almost fell.
My chair that I'm sitting in only has 3 wheels, and I literally almost died
We gave each other-
here on the Sci-Fi Christian.
We gave each other a high five because you made a good point.
You walked right into that one.
No, that's a good point.
Can I tell you this?
It's a trap!
That's what you should have known before you said that.
Oh, dang it. Okay, continue. But we should talk about his dark material sometime because, first of all, it's a good read, I thought. And secondly, I bet you could read.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Turn off if you want to read it and you haven't read it. I know how the end of the series.
Just wait, like
10 seconds.
Okay, go.
God dies at the end of the 3rd book.
Yeah, but it's not our God. It's just the God.
No, but it's meant to represent our God. This is allegory. This is how it works.
You know what? I did actually. Okay, you can come back now. No spoilers anymore. I did actually know that this guy had some negative feelings. I guess what I was trying to say.
He hated C.S. Lewis.
I guess what I was trying to say is it didn't work on me because I was already a Christian, so he didn't win me over. But okay, I see you want to say something, but yeah, I guess I could pick up on some of the things. Like he might have even used the phrase "Ancient of Days" when describing God. Who, actually, now that I think about it, I haven't read this for a while, but there's more coming back to me. It was pretty clearly symbolic of the Bible.
Exactly.
So I'm going to take back that high five and say it did work.
That you became less of a Christian by reading it.
Oh, because I guess the argument is it effective?
Is it effective?
It was not effective on me, but it was interesting.
So bring back the high five. High five.
All right.
Reinstated.
Nice job, Ben. Let us just leave it up to the listeners, or viewing if you're watching anything on YouTube that we've been putting up. Ben, you've been doing a great job in those videos on YouTube.
Thank you, sir.
So, I guess that's all from here. Please write in at feedback@sci-fi-christianpodcast.com. I'm Matt Anderson.
And I am a very animated and shouting Ben DiBono.
And we are the Sci-Fi Christians.
Signing off.
Whoa, you almost fell. Wow. Okay, sorry, don't shut the recording off. That's going to make a video. Is it still recording? Good. Oh my gosh. You almost totally fell at the end of the show. Oh, I'm so glad we have video going through this whole thing.
Oh my gosh.